Try depositing a lie.
The ultrasound photo looked real enough to fool anyone who wasn't a radiologist. Too bad for my wife, Vanessa, that my sister Jenna happened to be one of the best in Maine. I'm Eli Carver, 36 years old, owner of a small security tech business that barely keeps us afloat in our old Victorian house on Maple Street. My wife Vanessa works in PR for Portland General Hospital, making twice what I do and never letting me forget it. She's the kind of woman who orders wine by pointing at the price, not the grape. That Tuesday morning in October, Vanessa bounced into our kitchen wearing her $1,000 smile and waving a grainy black and white photo like it was a winning lottery ticket. "Surprise, honey," she squealed, practically embracing with excitement. "We're having a baby." I nearly choked on my coffee. We'd been trying for 3 years with no luck. The doctor said Vanessa had fertility issues that would require expensive treatments we couldn't afford. Suddenly, a miracle pregnancy? That's incredible, I managed, taking the ultrasound from her manicured fingers. The image showed what looked like a tiny bean floating in darkness. "When did you get this done?" "Yesterday, at that new clinic downtown. Dr. Morrison said everything looks perfect, 12 weeks along." She was already scrolling through baby name websites on her phone. I was thinking Madison for a girl, or maybe Bentley for a boy. Of course she was thinking luxury car names. 12 weeks, but you haven't been sick at all. No morning sickness, nothing. I studied the photo more carefully. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Vanessa waved dismissively. "Not every woman gets morning sickness, Eli. God, can't you just be happy for once? This is what we've wanted." What she'd wanted, maybe. I'd stopped wanting anything from our marriage about 2 years ago, when I realized she saw me as a stepping stone to something better, not a destination. "I'm happy," I lied, forcing a smile on. "I should call Jenna and tell her she's going to be an aunt. Don't bother her with this yet. You know how she gets all medical and analytical about everything. Let's just enjoy the moment." But I was already texting my sister a photo of the ultrasound with the message, "Welcome to the family, Aunt Jenna." Her response came back in less than 5 minutes. "Call me, now. Don't let Vanessa hear you." My blood turned to ice water. I waited until Vanessa left for work, then called Jenna from my basement office where I kept my security equipment and case files. The room smelled like old coffee and electronic components, my sanctuary from the perfect Pinterest life Vanessa had constructed upstairs. "Eli, that's not an ultrasound from any clinic in Maine," Jenna said without preamble. "The formatting is wrong, the measurements don't match our standards, and the image quality suggests it's from a European system, probably downloaded from the internet." "You're saying it's fake?" "I'm saying your wife is lying to you. The question is why." I stared at the ultrasound photo on my desk, seeing it clearly for the first time. The edges were too clean, the contrast too perfect. How had I missed it? "There is something else," Jenna continued. "That image isn't even of a 12-week fetus. It's closer to 8 weeks, and the positioning is wrong for a normal pregnancy. This looks like it came from a medical textbook or website." Jesus Christ. "Eli, listen to me carefully. Don't confront her yet. If she's running some kind of scam, you need evidence. Real evidence. Can you do that?" "Yeah," I said, my mind already shifting into investigative mode. "I can do that." After hanging up, I sat in the darkness of my basement office, surrounded by the tools of my trade, cameras, recording equipment, background check software. I'd built my business helping people uncover the truth about cheating spouses, insurance fraud, and corporate theft. Now I was about to use those skills on my own wife. The irony wasn't lost on me. Over the next 3 days, I watched Vanessa like she was a suspect in a case, which I suppose she was. She'd started asking for money, small amounts at first, $50 for prenatal vitamins, $100 for special pregnancy food that I never saw her eat. Then came the bigger requests. "The doctor wants me to see a specialist," she announced over dinner Thursday night. We were eating takeout Chinese food because Vanessa claimed the smell of cooking made her nauseous, despite showing no other signs of pregnancy. "And it's going to cost $3,000, but insurance won't cover it because it's considered elective." $3,000? I set down my chopsticks. "For what kind of specialist?" "High-risk pregnancy consultation, because of my age and history." She was 33, hardly ancient for childbearing, and her only history was the fertility issues that had supposedly been miraculously overcome. "Can't you see someone at Portland General? You work there? Don't they have specialists?" Vanessa's jaw tightened. "I don't want everyone at work knowing my business, Eli. This is private, personal. I thought you'd understand that. Of course, I just want to make sure we're spending our money wisely. Our money? Her voice went sharp. I make more than you do, remember? And this is for our baby. There it was, the reminder of really paid the bills delivered with surgical precision. Vanessa had a talent for finding pressure points and pressing them until you gave her what she wanted. You're right, I said. I'll transfer the money to your account tomorrow. But instead of transferring money, I called my old friend Dave Hutchins. Dave was an ex-cop who now ran a private security consulting firm. More importantly, he had connections throughout the city and a healthy disrespect for people who thought they were smarter than everyone else. We met at Murphy's Pub on Friday afternoon. The place was a dive bar that served decent burgers and minded its own business. Perfect for conversations you didn't want overheard. So your wife's faking a pregnancy to scam money out of you? Dave asked after I'd explained the situation. He was a big man with graying hair and suspicious eyes, the kind of guy who'd seen every con game in the book. That's what it looks like, but I need proof before I make any moves. Smart. What kind of proof you thinking? I want to know where she's really going when she claims to have doctor's appointments. I want to know who she's talking to, who she's texting, where the money's going. Dave nodded slowly. Surveillance. I can help with that. What's your budget? Whatever it takes. But Dave, this stays between us. If word gets out, Eli, I've been keeping secrets since before you knew what secrets were. Your wife won't know we're watching until you want her to know. We spent the next hour planning. Dave would handle the physical surveillance while I worked on the digital side. Vanessa wasn't tech-savvy enough to hide her tracks if she was communicating with accomplices online. That evening, I gave Vanessa the $3,000 in cash, as requested. She kissed my cheek and told me I was going to be a wonderful father. The words felt like poison in the air between us. When's your appointment with the specialist? I asked. Monday afternoon. I'll probably be gone most of the day. These consultations can take hours. Monday morning, Dave was in position outside our house in an unmarked van while I monitored Vanessa's phone activity from my office. I'd installed tracking software on our shared computer months ago during a brief period when I suspected she might be having an affair. The software was still active, syncing with her phone whenever she connected to our Wi-Fi. At 1:30 p.m., Vanessa left the house dressed in her most expensive outfit, a designer suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. She drove downtown, but not toward any medical facility. Instead, she went to the Pine Needle, an upscale bar in the financial district where Portland's young professionals went to see and be seen. Dave's voice crackled through my earpiece. She just went inside. Looks like she's meeting someone. Tall guy, expensive suit, driving a BMW. Can you get a photo? Already on it. 20 minutes later, Dave sent me a crystal clear image of Vanessa sitting in a corner booth with a man I didn't recognize. He was handsome, in that generic way that screamed successful professional. Perfect hair, perfect teeth, perfect watch that probably cost more than my car. They weren't acting like patient and doctor. They were acting like lovers planning something together. I ran the BMW's license plate through a database I had access to through my security business. The car was registered to Dr. Colin Royce, a surgeon at Portland General Hospital, Vanessa's workplace. Got you, you bastard, I muttered. But I was just getting started. Dr. Colin Royce was everything I wasn't. Tall, handsome, successful, and wealthy. His online presence painted the picture of a man who had never wanted for anything. Medical degree from Harvard, residency at Mass General, now pulling down serious money as a cardiac surgeon at one of Maine's premier hospitals. He was also married, according to his social media profiles. His wife was a blonde socialite who organized charity galas and posted pictures of their vacation home in the Hamptons. So what was he doing in a bar with my allegedly pregnant wife? I spent the weekend digging deeper. Vanessa claimed to be at a pregnancy yoga class on Saturday, but Dave followed her to Colin's apartment building downtown. She was inside for 3 hours. Sunday, she said she needed to rest because the baby was making her tired. She spent the day in bed while I pretended to watch football and actually monitored her text messages. The messages told the whole story, Vanessa. He gave me the $3K, no questions asked. Colin. Perfect. How much more do you think we can get? Vanessa. He's got about $50K in savings. I'm thinking of telling him there are complications and need expensive treatments. Colin. Brilliant. My divorce lawyer says I need at least $100K to fight for custody of my kids. This couldn't have come at a better time. Vanessa. What if he gets suspicious? Colin. He won't. Guys like him never think their wives are smart enough to outsmart them. I screenshot every message, my hands shaking with rage. They weren't just stealing my money, they were laughing at me while they did it. But the best part was yet to come. Monday morning, Vanessa announced she needed to see another specialist. The first doctor found some concerning abnormalities, she said, her voice perfectly calibrated to sound worried but not panicked. He's referring me to a high-risk pregnancy expert. It's going to cost $36,000. $36,000? I nearly spit out my coffee. For what? Specialized treatments to prevent miscarriage. Eli, I could lose the baby without this. She started crying, real tears that would have convinced anyone who didn't know better. I know it's a lot of money, but what's the alternative? Let our child die? The performance was flawless. If I hadn't seen her text messages, I might have believed her myself. Of course, I said, pulling her into a hug. We'll find a way. I'll liquidate some investments, maybe take out a loan against the house. Really? Oh, Eli, you're the best husband in the world. I was counting on it. That afternoon, I called Dave. I need you to help me with something that might not be completely legal. I'm listening. Remember that counterfeiting case you worked on last year? The one where the police confiscated all that fake money? Yeah, what about it? Any chance some of that evidence might have gone missing? Dave was quiet for a long moment. That depends. What are you planning? I'm going to give my wife exactly what she's asking for. Wednesday morning, I handed Vanessa a briefcase containing $36,000 in nearly perfect counterfeit bills. The money had been confiscated from a counterfeiting ring that Dave's former colleagues had busted 6 months ago. Some of it had been scheduled for destruction, but had somehow disappeared from the evidence locker. This is all our savings, I told her, which was technically true. Our real savings were safely hidden in accounts she didn't know about. But if it saves our baby, it's worth it. Vanessa's eyes lit up as she opened the briefcase. Oh, Eli, I promise you won't regret this. We're going to have the most beautiful, healthy baby. I'm sure we will. She kissed me goodbye and left for her appointment with the briefcase. Dave was waiting outside in his surveillance van. Phase 1 is in motion, he reported as Vanessa drove away. Where do you think she's headed? Let's find out. Vanessa drove straight to Colin's apartment building. She was inside for an hour, then came out without the briefcase. Colin left 20 minutes later, also without the briefcase, and drove to First National Bank downtown. He's going to try to deposit the money, I told Dave. This is where it gets interesting. Counterfeit money is remarkably difficult to detect with the unaided eye, but banks have sophisticated equipment designed to catch fake bills. The money Dave had provided was good enough to fool most people, but it wouldn't pass a bank's scrutiny. Colin emerged from the bank 15 minutes later, looking confused and angry. He made several phone calls from his car, his gestures growing more agitated with each conversation. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Treatment went well, but the doctor wants to see me again tomorrow. There might be additional costs. I texted back, whatever it takes, honey. I love you. But I was already planning phase 2. Thursday morning brought the news I'd been expecting. Dave called at 7 a.m., barely containing his laughter. Your boy Colin got arrested at the bank yesterday afternoon, he said. Apparently he came back with the counterfeit money, demanding to know why they wouldn't accept it. When they explained it was fake, he lost his crap and started yelling about being set up. Bank security called the police. Is he in jail? Released on bail, but he's facing federal counterfeiting charges. The FBI is involved now. Perfect. I'd wanted to destroy Colin's life, and he'd done half the work himself by being stupid enough to return to the bank with fake money. Vanessa came downstairs looking worried. She'd been on her phone since 6 a.m., probably trying to reach her partner in crime. Everything okay? I asked innocently. Fine, she said, but her voice was tight. Just some work drama. Anything I can help with? No, it's nothing. I might need to work late today, though. Big project. I nodded sympathetically while mentally preparing for the day ahead. Dave and I had planned something special for Mrs. Carver. At 10 a.m., there was a knock at our door. I answered it to find 2 FBI agents with badges and serious expressions. Mr. Carver, we're investigating a counterfeiting case involving your wife. We'd like to ask you some questions. Vanessa appeared behind me, her face pale. What's this about? Ma'am, we have evidence that you were involved in passing counterfeit currency. We need you to come with us for questioning. The performance was flawless. Dave's contacts in law enforcement had agreed to help with this little charade in exchange for information about Colin's activities. The badges were real, borrowed from friends who were off duty. The evidence was legitimate. Security camera footage from the bank showing Colin with the briefcase that had last been seen in Vanessa's possession. There must be some mistake, Vanessa stammered. I don't know anything about counterfeit money. Ma'am, we have video evidence of you meeting with Dr. Colin Royce, who was arrested yesterday for attempting to deposit fake currency. The money was traced back to you. I put on my best concerned husband act. Officers, I'm sure this is all a misunderstanding. My wife is pregnant. She's been under a lot of stress. Pregnant? One of the agents looked at Vanessa skeptically. Ma'am, are you currently receiving prenatal care? Yes, of course. We'll need documentation of that. Doctor's name, medical records, proof of pregnancy. Vanessa's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She couldn't provide what didn't exist. I need to call my lawyer, she whispered. That's your right, ma'am, but we still need you to come with us. As they led her away in handcuffs, a nice touch, Dave had suggested, Vanessa looked back at me with desperate eyes. Eli, call someone. Get me out of this. Don't worry, honey, I called back. I'll take care of everything. And I would, just not the way she expected. The fake arrest bought me 6 hours while Vanessa sat in an interview room trying to explain her way out of a counterfeiting charge with no lawyer and no believable story. Dave's friends were professionals. They knew how to make those 6 hours feel like 6 days. I used the time to visit Portland General Hospital. Vanessa's supervisor, Margaret Chen, was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who ran the PR department like a military operation. She knew Vanessa was married to me. We'd met at several hospital functions. But she didn't know about the pregnancy scam. Eli, what a surprise, Margaret said when I appeared at her office door. Is everything all right? Vanessa called in sick today. That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. Has Vanessa seemed different lately? Distracted, maybe asking for time off for medical appointments? Margaret's expression grew concerned. She has been taking a lot of personal time recently. She said she was dealing with some health issues but didn't want to discuss details. Why? Is she all right? I think she might be in some serious trouble, Margaret. The kind that could affect the hospital if it gets out. I spent the next hour explaining everything. The fake pregnancy, the money scam, Colin's arrest, the counterfeiting charges. Margaret's face grew darker with each revelation. Dr. Royce works here, she said when I finished. If he's involved in criminal activity, especially with one of our PR staff, it gets worse. I have text messages showing they plan to steal more money from me, possibly up to $100,000. They were laughing about how stupid I was. Margaret asked to see the messages. I showed her screenshots on my phone, watching her expression shift from concern to disgust to anger. This is a disaster, she muttered. If this gets out, the media will have a field day. Hospital employees run pregnancy scam. Our reputation will be destroyed. It doesn't have to get out, I said carefully, not if the right people handle it properly. What are you suggesting? Fire them both, quietly. Let Colin deal with his legal problems on his own and let Vanessa face the consequences of her choices without the protection of hospital employment. Make it clear that Portland General had no knowledge of their activities and took immediate action when informed. Margaret nodded slowly. I'll need to discuss this with the board, but yes, I think that's the right approach. Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Eli. I know this can't have been easy. I just want to do the right thing. By the time I got home, David called to let me know Vanessa was being released. The fake FBI agents had concluded their investigation and determined there wasn't enough evidence to hold her. But they'd made it clear she remained under suspicion. Vanessa arrived home 3 hours later, looking like she'd aged 10 years in one day. Eli, thank God you're here, she said, collapsing into my arms. It was horrible. They kept asking about Colin, about money, about pregnancy records I don't have because she stopped, realizing what she'd almost admitted. Because what? I asked gently. Because I was trying to surprise you. I wanted to wait until I was further along before making it official with doctors here in town. Still lying, even after being arrested. I had to admire her commitment. It's okay, honey. We'll figure this out. But maybe you should take some time off work. Let things calm down. I can't take time off. We need the money. especially now with the baby coming and these legal problems. Actually, about that, Margaret Chen called me today. Vanessa went very still. What did she want? She wanted to know why the FBI was asking questions about you and Colin. Apparently, word has gotten around the hospital. What did you tell her? The truth, that my wife is innocent and being dragged into something because of her association with Colin. Relief flooded Vanessa's face. Thank you. I was so worried. There is one problem, though. The hospital board is meeting tomorrow to discuss the situation. They might decide that both you and Colin are too much of a liability to keep on staff. They can't fire me. I haven't done anything wrong. I know that, and you know that, but perception is reality in situations like this. The hospital can't afford to look like they employ people involved in criminal activity. Vanessa started crying. Real tears this time, tears of fear and desperation. What are we going to do? How are we going to pay for the baby's medical expenses if I lose my job? We'll figure something out, I said, holding her while she sobbed against my chest. We always do. But we both knew there was no baby, no medical expenses, and after tomorrow, no job. The trap was closing. Friday morning brought a phone call that changed everything. It was Tara Williams, Vanessa's best friend, and the owner of an upscale beauty clinic downtown. Tara had always treated me like I was barely worth her time, just another middle-class husband dragging down her successful friend. Eli, I need to talk to you, she said without preamble. It's about Vanessa. What about her? Not over the phone. Can you meet me at my clinic in an hour? Tara's clinic was all white marble and soft lighting, the kind of place where wealthy women went to fight aging with expensive procedures. She was waiting in her office, looking uncharacteristically nervous. I know about the pregnancy, she said as soon as I sat down. What about it? That it's fake, that she's been scamming you with Colin Royce. I kept my expression neutral. That's a serious accusation, Tara. It's also true. She told me everything 3 weeks ago, said she needed my help to make it believable. And you helped her? Tara's face flushed. She said you were controlling and manipulative, that you controlled all the money, and she needed a way to get enough cash to leave you safely. I thought I was helping a friend escape a bad situation. But now you know better? Now I know she was lying about that too. Colin called me yesterday, panicking about the FBI investigation. He told me the real plan. They were going to take you for everything you had, then disappear together once his divorce was finalized. I leaned back in my chair, studying her. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm not going to prison for Vanessa's lies. Colin said the FBI thinks I'm involved because I helped create fake medical records for her pregnancy. I could lose my license, my business, everything. What kind of fake medical records? Pregnancy test results, ultrasound reports, doctor's notes. I have a friend who works at a lab. She helped us create documents that would pass casual inspection. In exchange for what? Vanessa promised me $20,000 once she got the money from you. She said it would be easy, that you'd never suspect anything because you trusted her completely. The casual cruelty of it hit me like a physical blow. My wife and her best friend, laughing about how gullible I was, while they planned to destroy my life. I want to make this right, Tara continued. I'll testify against them, provide evidence, whatever you need. Just please don't let me go down with them. What evidence do you have? She opened her desk drawer and pulled out a manila folder. Copies of all the fake documents, text messages between Vanessa and me, recordings of conversations where she talked about the plan. Recordings? I started recording our conversations after Colin got arrested. I had a feeling things were going to go bad, and I wanted protection. She played a recording on her phone. Vanessa's voice came through clearly. Eli is such an idiot. He actually cried when I showed him the ultrasound. I almost felt bad for him, but then I remembered how much money we're going to get out of this. Another voice, Colin. How much longer do you think we can string him along? Vanessa. As long as it takes. I'll tell him there are complications, that I need bed rest, whatever keeps him paying. By the time he figures it out, we'll be long gone. I listened to 10 minutes of recordings, each one more damning than the last. They talked about my money like it was already theirs, about me like I was a mark in a con game, about our marriage like it was a joke they were playing on someone too stupid to get it. I want copies of everything, I told Tara. Of course. But what are you going to do? I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve. That afternoon, I called my lawyer, my accountant, and my bank. By evening, I had filed for divorce, frozen all joint accounts, and secured restraining orders against both Vanessa and Colin. The legal documents were served simultaneously at 6 p.m. Vanessa at home, Colin at his apartment. Vanessa read the divorce papers with growing horror. Eli, what is this? What are you doing? I'm protecting myself from a criminal conspiracy to defraud me of my life savings. Criminal conspiracy? Are you insane? I'm pregnant with your child. No, you're not, and I can prove it. I played Tara's recordings on my phone. Vanessa's face went white as she listened to herself, talking about what an idiot I was, how easy I was to manipulate, how much money they were going to steal from me. Where did you get this? She whispered. From someone who decided she didn't want to go to prison for your lies. Tara? That witch recorded me? That witch is testifying against you in court, along with providing evidence of the fake medical records you two created. Vanessa sank into a chair, the fight going out of her. Eli, please. We can work this out. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. The only mistake was mine, marrying someone who saw me as a wallet with legs. That's not true. I love you. You love my money. There's a difference. She tried tears, then anger, then bargaining. Nothing worked. The evidence was overwhelming. The legal documents were filed, and her co-conspirators were abandoning her one by one. What happens now? She asked finally. Oh, now you move out. Tonight. The restraining order gives you 2 hours to pack your things and leave. Where am I supposed to go? I don't have any money. That's not my problem anymore. As Vanessa packed her designer clothes and expensive jewelry, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. The constant tension. The feeling that I was never good enough. The nagging suspicion that my wife saw me as a temporary inconvenience. All of it was lifting like fog in sunlight. She left at 9 p.m. with 3 suitcases and a look of pure hatred. This isn't over, she said from the doorway. I'll fight you in court. I'll take half of everything you have. Good luck with that. It's hard to claim marital assets when you're facing federal fraud charges. The door slammed behind her, and for the first time in 3 years, my house felt like home. The next 3 weeks brought a cascade of consequences that exceeded even my expectations. Colin was indicted on federal counterfeiting charges and fired from Portland General Hospital. His medical license was suspended pending investigation, and his wife filed for divorce, taking their kids and half his assets. Vanessa was charged with conspiracy to commit fraud and creating false documents. She lost her job at the hospital and couldn't find another one. Word had spread through Portland's tight-knit professional community that she was involved in a scam targeting her own husband. Tara kept her promise to testify against them, providing evidence that destroyed any chance they had of claiming innocence. In exchange, she received immunity from prosecution, but lost several high-profile clients who didn't want to be associated with the scandal. But the real reckoning came when our mutual friends chose sides. Marcus and Jennifer Webb had been our closest couple friends for 5 years. We'd vacationed together, celebrated holidays together, been each other's emergency contacts. They were successful professionals. He was a financial advisor. She was a real estate agent. And they'd always seemed to look up to Vanessa's ambition and success. When news of the scandal broke, I expected them to be shocked and supportive. Instead, I got a cold phone call from Marcus. Eli, Jennifer and I have been talking, and we think what you did to Vanessa was completely out of line. What I did to her, setting her up with fake money, having her arrested, destroying her career. She made a mistake, but your response was vindictive and cruel. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Marcus, she tried to steal $50,000 from me with a fake pregnancy. How is that just a mistake? She was desperate, Eli. You controlled all the money in your marriage, made her feel trapped and powerless. She saw the pregnancy thing as her only way to get some financial independence. Financial independence? She was planning to disappear with her lover once they'd cleaned out my savings. That's your version of events. Vanessa says Colin was just a friend helping her figure out how to leave a toxic marriage. Toxic? I never laid a hand on her. Harm isn't always physical, Eli. Financial control, emotional pressure, manipulative behavior. Vanessa told us how you monitored her spending, questioned her decisions, made her account for every dollar. The gaslighting was breathtaking. Vanessa had somehow convinced our friends that she was the victim, that I was a controlling husband, that her criminal fraud was actually an act of self-defense. Marcus, I have recordings of her laughing about how stupid I was, planning to steal my money, calling me an idiot behind my back. Recordings you made illegally, violating her privacy. That just proves how controlling and paranoid you were. The conversation ended with Marcus telling me that he and Jennifer wouldn't be able to maintain a friendship with someone who could destroy his wife so completely over a moment of poor judgment. 3 other couple friends made similar calls over the next week. Vanessa's narrative was spreading through our social circle like a virus. I was the real villain, she was the victim, and anyone who stayed friends with me was endorsing domestic misuse. The isolation was devastating. These weren't just casual acquaintances, they were people I'd considered family. People who'd been in my home hundreds of times, people who'd seen my marriage up close for years. If Vanessa could convince them that I was a harmful partner, what did that say about how well I'd hidden my true nature? Or how well she'd hidden hers? The doubt crept in late at night when I was alone in my house, surrounded by the silence of a life that had imploded. Had I been controlling? Had I made Vanessa feel trapped? Was her betrayal somehow my fault? Then I'd remember the recordings, the evidence, the cold calculation in her voice as she planned to destroy me. Whatever problems our marriage had, fraud wasn't the solution. Theft wasn't justified by unhappiness. And anyone who thought it was didn't deserve to be in my life. But it still hurt. It hurt like heck. The final blow came from an unexpected source, my own mother. "Eli, I'm disappointed in you," she said during our weekly phone call. "I raised you to treat women with respect, not to destroy them when they make mistakes." Mom, she wasn't making mistakes. She was committing crimes. She was trying to leave a marriage that made her unhappy. You could have just given her a divorce and let her go with dignity. She could have asked for a divorce instead of trying to steal my life savings. Money isn't everything, Eli. Your marriage was already over. Anyone could see that. Fighting over money just makes you look petty and vindictive. Even my mother, who'd raised me alone after my father left, who'd worked 2 jobs to put me through college, who'd always been my biggest supporter, even she was taking Vanessa's side. The isolation was complete. By December, I'd lost most of my friends, the respect of my family, and any desire to stay in Portland. The legal proceedings were moving forward. Vanessa and Colin would face trial in the spring. But the social damage was irreversible. I was the man who'd destroyed his wife's life over money, the controlling husband who'd chosen revenge over reconciliation. That's when Dave suggested the nuclear option. "You want to know what really pisses me off about this whole thing?" he said over beers at Murphy's Pub. "Everyone's acting like you're the bad guy, but they don't know the whole story." I've told them the whole story. They don't want to hear it. No, you've told them your side of the story, but you haven't shown them what Vanessa and her friends really think of them. What do you mean? Dave pulled out his phone and scrolled through some files. "Remember when I was doing surveillance on Vanessa? I didn't just follow her to meet Colin. I also recorded her conversations with other people, including some of your mutual friends." He played an audio file. Vanessa's voice came through clearly, talking to someone on the phone. "Jennifer's such a fake witch. She acts like she cares about me, but she's just fishing for gossip to spread around her real estate office. Marcus is even worse, always hitting on me when Eli isn't looking. They're all so boring and middle class. I can't wait to get away from them once Colin and I have enough money." Another recording, Vanessa talking to Tara. "The funniest part is how they all think they're so sophisticated and successful. Jennifer's real estate business is failing. Marcus is stealing from his clients' accounts, and they're both too stupid to realize everyone knows. I can't believe I've wasted 5 years pretending to be friends with these losers." There were hours of recordings. Vanessa mocking our friends, revealing their secrets, expressing contempt for everyone who'd believed her lies about me. She'd been playing a role for years, pretending to care about people she actually despised. Jesus, Dave, this is the real Vanessa. The woman who's been manipulating everyone around her for years, including you. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I thought about Marcus and Jennifer, who'd cut me out of their lives to support a woman who called them boring losers behind their backs. I thought about my mother, who'd chosen to believe the word of a criminal over her own son. I thought about all the people who'd been so quick to judge me without knowing the facts. "I'm going to give them the truth," I said. "All of it." Dave smiled. "Now you're talking." The next day, I created anonymous email accounts and sent the recordings to everyone who'd taken Vanessa's side. Marcus and Jennifer got the recordings of Vanessa mocking them. My mother got the recordings of Vanessa calling her a pathetic old woman who raised a loser's son. Other friends got their own personalized collections of Vanessa's private thoughts about them. I also sent copies to the local news media, along with a complete dossier of evidence about the pregnancy scam. The story was too good to ignore. Local woman fakes pregnancy to defraud husband, mocks friends who support her. The response was immediate and devastating. Marcus called first, his voice shaking with rage. Eli, I owe you an apology. I had no idea. The things she said about Jennifer, about our marriage, about our business, how could we have been so wrong about her? Jennifer was crying when she called an hour later. I feel so stupid. I defended her. I cut you out of our lives, and she was laughing at us the whole time. Can you ever forgive us? My mother's call was harder to take. Eli, I'm sorry. I should have trusted you. I should have known you better than that. That woman, the things she said about you, about me, I feel sick. The apologies kept coming for days. Every friend who'd abandoned me, every family member who'd questioned my character, every person who'd believed Vanessa's lies. They all called to grovel and beg forgiveness. It felt good. Better than good. It felt like vindication. But the best part was yet to come. The news story broke on a Thursday morning, and by Thursday evening, Vanessa's life had imploded completely. The recordings didn't just expose her contempt for our friends. They also revealed criminal activity that the FBI hadn't known about. In one conversation with Colin, she'd discussed forging medical documents for other women in similar scams. In another, she'd talked about using her position at the hospital to access patient information for identity theft. The pregnancy fraud was just the tip of the iceberg. Colin, facing additional charges, decided to cooperate with federal prosecutors. He provided evidence of a broader conspiracy involving fake medical records, insurance fraud, and identity theft. Vanessa wasn't just a cheating wife trying to steal from her husband. She was part of an organized criminal enterprise. The additional charges meant serious prison time. Her lawyer advised her to take a plea deal, but Vanessa's arrogance wouldn't let her admit defeat. She insisted on going to trial, convinced she could charm a jury the same way she'd charmed our friends. She was wrong. The trial lasted 2 weeks and was covered extensively by local media. The prosecution played the recordings of Vanessa mocking me, our friends, and her own victims. They showed evidence of the fake pregnancy, the forged documents, the money laundering through Colin's accounts. Vanessa's defense was that she'd been manipulated by Colin, that she was really a victim of his criminal scheme. But the recordings proved she'd been an eager participant, often suggesting new ways to expand their operations. The jury deliberated for 3 hours and found her guilty on all counts: conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, identity theft, and money laundering. The judge sentenced her to 8 years in federal prison. Colin got 12 years for his role as the ringleader. Tara, who'd cooperated with prosecutors, received 2 years probation and lost her medical license. As I watched Vanessa being led away in handcuffs, I felt something I hadn't expected: pity. She'd had everything: a successful career, a comfortable life, people who cared about her, and she'd thrown it all away for money and the thrill of manipulating others. But the pity didn't last long. She'd made her choices, and now she was facing the consequences. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked if I had any comment on my ex-wife's conviction. I hope she uses her time in prison to reflect on the damage she's caused to everyone who trusted her, I said, including herself. That evening, I had dinner with Marcus and Jennifer at a restaurant downtown. They'd been trying to rebuild our friendship since the recordings came out, and I'd finally agreed to meet with them. We owe you more than an apology, Marcus said. We should have known better. We should have trusted you. You believed what you wanted to believe, I replied. Vanessa was very good at telling people what they wanted to hear. How did you know? Jennifer asked. How did you see through her when the rest of us couldn't? I didn't, not at first. It took her trying to steal $50,000 from me to open my eyes. If she'd been satisfied with smaller amounts, she might have gotten away with it for years. What are you going to do now? Marcus asked. Move on. Start over. Try to remember what it feels like to trust people again. It was easier said than done. The betrayal had left scars that went deeper than just the marriage. When your wife can lie to your face for months, when your friends can turn against you based on those lies, when your own mother can doubt your character, it changes how you see the world. But I was working on it, one day at a time. 6 months after Vanessa's conviction, I sold the Victorian house on Maple Street and bought a smaller place across town. The old house had too many memories, too many reminders of a life that had been built on lies. My security business was thriving. Word had spread about how I'd uncovered my wife's fraud, and I was getting calls from people who suspected their own spouses of cheating or stealing. It was depressing work in some ways. So much betrayal, so much dishonesty, but it was also satisfying to help people find the truth. Dave and I had become closer friends through the whole ordeal. He'd seen me at my worst and stuck by me anyway, which meant more than I could express. "You know what the best part of this whole thing is?" he said one evening as we watched a baseball game at Murphy's Pub. "What's that? You're not bitter. After everything she put you through, everything you lost, you're not walking around angry at the world." I was for a while, but staying angry just gives her more power over my life. She's in prison, I'm free. That's justice enough for me. You're a better man than I am. If my wife had pulled that crap, I'd probably still be plotting revenge. I got my revenge. She's wearing an orange jumpsuit and eating prison food while I'm drinking good beer and watching baseball with my best friend. What more could I want? Dave raised his beer in a toast. To moving on. To moving on. But even as I said it, I knew there was one more piece of business to settle. The next morning, I drove to the federal prison where Vanessa was serving her sentence. I'd thought about this visit for months, unsure if I wanted to see her again or if it would just reopen old wounds. She looked older, tired, diminished in her prison uniform. The designer clothes and perfect makeup were gone, replaced by the harsh reality of incarceration. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said when they brought her to the visiting room. I wasn't sure either. We sat across from each other at a metal table, two people who'd once shared a bed and a life, now separated by bulletproof glass and years of lies. "I'm sorry," she said finally, "for all of it. The pregnancy, the money, the things I said about you to other people. You didn't deserve any of that." "No, I didn't. I know it doesn't change anything, but I want you to know that I did love you. At the beginning, anyway. Before the money and the status became more important than everything else. I believe you. But love without respect isn't really love at all, is it?" She looked down at her hands, unable to meet my eyes. "Probably not." "Why, Vanessa? Why not just ask for a divorce if you were that unhappy?" "Because I was greedy, because I thought I deserved more than half of what we had together. Because Colin convinced me we could have it all if we were smart about it. And now you have nothing." "Now I have nothing," she agreed. 8 years to think about how I threw away everything good in my life for money I never got to spend. We talked for another 20 minutes about practical things. The divorce settlement, her appeals process, her plans for when she got out. It was civil, even cordial, but there was no warmth between us anymore. Too much had happened, too much trust had been broken. As I prepared to leave, she asked one final question. "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" "I already have," I said. "Not for your sake, but for mine. Carrying that anger around was poisoning my life. I decided to let it go. Thank you. But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, Vanessa. And it doesn't mean I'd ever trust you again. I know, I wouldn't trust me either." I left the prison feeling lighter somehow, like I'd finally closed a chapter that had been hanging open for too long. Vanessa would serve her time and I would build a new life. Our story was over. 3 months later, I was working late in my office when my phone rang. It was Jenna calling from the hospital. "Eli, I have some news that might interest you. Remember Dr. Colin Royce?" "Hard to forget him. What about him?" "He was found dead in his cell this morning. Apparent self-inflicted death." I felt a moment of shock, followed by something that might have been sadness. Colin had been a bastard and a criminal, but he'd also been someone's father, someone's son. "How's Vanessa taking it?" "I don't know, but I thought you should hear it from me instead of reading about it in the paper." "Thanks, Jenna. I appreciate that." After hanging up, I sat in my office thinking about Colin, about Vanessa, about the chain of choices that had led to this moment. Colin had chosen greed over honor, crime over honesty, and ultimately death over facing the consequences of his actions. Vanessa had made similar choices but was still alive, so still had a chance to make different decisions when she got out of prison. I hoped she would take that chance. As for me, I was choosing to move forward, to trust again, carefully, to love again when the right person came along, to build a life based on honesty instead of lies, respect instead of manipulation, genuine connection instead of calculated performance. It wasn't the life I'd planned when I married Vanessa 8 years ago, but it was the life I'd earned through surviving her betrayal and choosing not to let it destroy me. And that was enough. 5 years later, I'm writing this from my new home office, a bright room with windows overlooking a garden that I planted myself. It's spring in Maine, and everything is coming back to life after a long winter. My security business has expanded into corporate consulting, helping companies protect themselves from internal fraud and embezzlement. It's ironic that my expertise in being betrayed has become such a valuable professional skill, but life has a sense of humor like that. I remarried 2 years ago to a woman named Sarah who works as a nurse at Maine Medical Center. She knows my whole story. I told her everything before we got serious, figuring she had a right to know what she was getting into. Her response was that everyone has baggage, and at least mine came with useful life lessons. Sarah is nothing like Vanessa. She's honest to a fault, terrible at hiding her emotions, and more interested in helping people than in accumulating status symbols. When she says she loves me, I believe her because I've seen her actions match her words for 3 years running. We're expecting our first child in October. A real child this time, documented by real ultrasounds from real doctors. The irony isn't lost on me. Vanessa was released from prison 6 months ago after serving 7 years of her 8-year sentence. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she moved to Florida and is working at a call center under her maiden name. She sent me a letter last Christmas, apologizing again and wishing me well. I didn't respond, but I didn't throw the letter away either. Some of our old friends have tried to reconnect over the years. Marcus and Jennifer moved to California, but we exchanged Christmas cards and the occasional email. My relationship with my mother improved after she realized how completely she'd been manipulated, though it took time to rebuild the trust between us. Dave is still my best friend and business partner. He walked me down the aisle at my wedding since my father wasn't around to do it. He's also going to be the godfather of my child, a responsibility he takes very seriously. The house on Maple Street sold to a young couple who were excited about fixing up the old Victorian. I drove by it once last year and saw they'd painted it yellow instead of the white Vanessa had insisted on. It looked happier somehow. I still think about the whole experience sometimes, usually late at night when I can't sleep. Not with anger or regret, but with a kind of amazement at how completely wrong I'd been about someone I'd lived with for years. It's a humbling reminder that we never really know other people as well as we think we do. But I've also learned that surviving betrayal doesn't have to make you cynical or bitter. It can make you more careful, more observant, more appreciative of genuine honesty when you find it. It can teach you the difference between love and manipulation, between trust and naivety, between forgiveness and foolishness. Most importantly, it can teach you that your worth as a person isn't determined by how others treat you. Vanessa's betrayal said everything about her character and nothing about mine. It took me a long time to really believe that, but now I do. As I finish writing this, Sarah calls from downstairs that dinner is ready. It's just spaghetti and salad, nothing fancy, but it's made with love instead of calculation. She's excited to tell me about her day at the hospital, and I'm excited to listen because her stories are true. This is what happiness looks like after betrayal. Simple, honest, real. No designer clothes or expensive restaurants or impressive social media posts. Just two people who choose each other every day, who tell each other the truth, who build something together instead of tearing it down. Vanessa thought she was so clever, so sophisticated, so much better than the boring middle-class life we had together. She traded it all for 8 years in prison and a future built on lies. I traded it for this: a woman who loves me without conditions, a child on the way, a business built on helping people find the truth, and the knowledge that I survived the worst betrayal of my life and came out stronger. Some trades are better than others,